All right, today we're covering a 4-day vending event. We were asked to serve at a 16-inch softball tournament by Pat Caputo of the SSA. Mike, take that away.
Sure. So just a quick background on 16-inch softball, also known as mush ball or slow pitch. Originated in Chicago, surprisingly around the year 1887. I had no idea that it was been around for that long. And the fact that initially it was played indoors because it was a winter sport, quickly moved outdoors to take advantage of the city's smaller urban parks that we often found in relatively confined spaces around the city. And then, like the SSA, it stands for Slow Pitch Softball Association. It's an organization they created to help increase the participation in 16-inch softball locally and nationally. It's created by the players for the players, and those guys have an incredible wealth of information or knowledge around the game all around. I'll say that Geo does an amazing job of live streaming the games. Allows them to show off all that familiarity they have with the game and the players, and this goes a long ways towards nurturing like continued support of both the sport, but also getting new people and new fans to be interested in it. And then I also wanted to touch on quickly the competitive nature of the game that we talk about. It's like because of the ball is different from the traditional 12-inch ball, the extra fielder, what do you call them, the short
Short
center,
center.
yeah, and then the fact that for the most part no gloves are being used in the game.
Yeah, I mean, just going off of that, the fact that there is a short center, there are no gloves, double plays are turned faster, the ball is coming in at the pace of the game is fast, just in general. With 60-foot bases and some really good athletes out there these days, it's no longer just an old man sport. You got a lot of athletes out there, and that keeps the game moving fast. So you got like wide receiver type people in the outfield. You got people with really fast hands in the infield. First baseman should have the best of the best. First basemen have really good hands because they're catching balls thrown across the diamond with no gloves that are coming in pretty hot. And yeah, going off of that background of the SSA, this tournament specifically is held at Bulger Park in Melrose Park, Illinois. That is like the hub of a lot of 16-inch softball. And we are proud sponsors of the SSA. So we are happy to do a tournament like this, and we're glad to get opportunities like that and be able to network with more people. I think Melrose Park is an area where we haven't really touched yet in terms of a new market in the Chicago area. And I think a lot of people learned about us, whether they saw our banners out there before in the past or just came to us for the first time. They now know that More Than Dogs is a thing.
And what I like about the sponsorship for the SSA, a big credit to them, is how well they treat their sponsors in terms of talking about them, calling them out during the games. Geo's live stream. You're a player, right? So whenever you're up to bat, they make sure they mention More Than Dogs, but also the story there, calling out our location. But they do that for all the sponsors. So it's not just a banner, a well visible banner in the outfield, but also just they bring a good attention to their sponsors, which they
Yeah,
really
and
appreciate.
they have thousands of viewers,
Right.
so it's a big deal for a small business.
Yeah, for sure.
I also want to point out that 16-inch softball in general, it's very popular here in Chicago and Chicagoland area, but it's growing, and there are teams in Iowa, there are teams out west that are playing this game. So I'm interested to see how it unravels, especially as people utilize the internet. There's a couple podcasts out there covering it. Then you have the broadcast from the SSA. So we'll see how that goes. Jumping into this event, though, talking about what actually went well, I was a big fan of the site visit and the planning for this event. This is the first event where we really established the fact that we should probably be doing a site visit.
Yeah.
Because it was complex. We never been in this area, had to come kind of far for 4 days straight. There was a lot of planning involved. So it was great to be able to actually go there, meet with Pat Caputo, meet with the supervisor for the park, and actually understand the layout, understand the expectations. He really wanted to make clear that we needed to keep the park in good condition, making sure we cleared it with the right people to be able to use the storage, the facilities inside, made sure that we got the right information to go to like the headquarter park in Melrose to get approved, sign the proper permit. But yeah, just going there and doing all of our due diligence, especially because there's a lot of talk of where we were going to set up with no context of why it wouldn't be feasible, right? So when we actually got there, we were able to dive into the possibility of setting up, where low electricity was, how close you were to the storage facilities, everything that would really set us up for success the day of.
Yeah, so to go with that, in terms of the physical setup, I really appreciated the space they gave us, right? So it was plenty of space for the cart to set up, our table we bring, the tents. So I think at some point we had two tents because when Mario and Sticks was with us, the electricity, it was a well-defined, good area that we were able to keep our stuff self-contained. The access to the storage was clutch, not just the storage, but the refrigeration, the cold storage, the secure dry storage where we were able to put everything overnight, considering it was a 4-day event. It really minimized the overhead of what we had to bring back and forth each day when we're restocking, right? So if we had to bring um, more dry goods like Gatorade or pop or anything like that, we didn't have to worry about doubling up on it because we weren't bringing back the night before stock. I got to stay there, and all we had to do was add to it, right? And then the cold storage again is also just clutch because when you're traveling back and forth like we do, especially when it's not the trailer with the refrigerator and the freezer, you need to be cautious of ice and ice packs and all that kind of stuff, right? And that stuff wasn't a thought. So I really appreciate the forethought that went into a lot of those things.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I also think that really relieved us of a lot of labor. We were able to get a reasonable night's sleep and for a quick turnaround, by not having to lug things back and forth and clean up in like a mess in multiple places. We were able to leave things there, quickly take inventory, plan for the next day, and then just go home and get a good night's sleep, come back, wake up early, and do it again. But if we had to lug everything back and forth, that changes the dynamics completely.
Right.
Another aspect to that, like you said, storage, is we actually got to store our cart there, in one of their bays. So they have like a, I don't know what you would call it, but there's like a few different garages,
Like
and
utility
yeah,
garages,
it's
right?
like
It had heavy equipment in there for maintaining the
all of the
park district.
maintenance for the
Yeah.
park, all of the equipment was in there, and we got to put it in one of the bays thanks to Richie Rico. So he vouched for us. He said he'd look out for it, and he'd be responsible for it because that's really was the supervisor's concern too. And Richie said, I got it. I'll take care of it. And he let us put it in his bay, and we left the hot dog cart there. I mean, obviously we emptied it of food and everything, and we put it in there for all 4 days, and it was perfect because then another aspect to getting home at a reasonable time. You didn't have to drive slow in the right lane the whole way. You can just get on and go. Um,
Right, which made the follow up on like I was saying, on the next day is even easier because we're only thinking about the delta, right? We're not having you're not rethinking about everything. You're only about like, what do we need to restock? What do we need to add to the operation? And again, like you said, we're not bringing the cart back and forth. So maybe we're just bringing a cooler with like additional dogs or additional burgers, fresh tomatoes, things like that. But it wasn't like make sure you bring everything back and restock everything every time, right?
right.
So
Another thing that I thought went well was our team. We put together a decent team of like 4 to 5 people throughout the weekend, and that was because we had to be divided. Like you were at the Red Sox series, I was at the Melrose tournament, but you were doing double duty too. You were coming back and forth. While I was hankered down at this spot for all 4 days, I was working with you, working with my brother, working with Nicolina, working with Joey Pasqua, working with Ricky. You were coming back and forth. So you came the first day, and then
yep. Yeah. So the first day was, and it was actually the easiest, not just because it was you and I run it, but of the tournament, right? Thursday is going to be any kind of weekday tournament that has a 4-day start to it. It's going to be a slower paced thing, right? It's just from also the general softball experience. But so it's probably the easiest day for us to handle. But at least we got to have our full team get the lay of the land, get everything properly set up, and know how you were going to do it the following days. So that was on Thursday. And then Friday, well, we had the Red Sox in town. So Ricky and I had the trailer over at the spot at 34th and Shields. And we had a full evening Red Sox game to deal with, while you were out there dealing with the cart with, I believe,
Friday I think was Anthony.
Anthony. So yeah, and you guys
Anthony
had
and Joey.
a good crowd building up to everything, right?
Yeah.
And so how did Friday go?
Oh, I thought given the setting and circumstances, Thursday and Friday went well, right? It was just a couple games. Not every team is out there at once, and it's shortened time. It's not an all-day event. It's a couple hours each day. I thought both days went well. I think what it really is on these 4-day tournaments is you're getting out there to really establish your presence, because the people that see you there on Thursday and Friday, you have the ability to converse with them, talk with them about, what you're doing, that you're here for the whole weekend. That really gives them some knowledge base for Saturday,
Right.
which is the big day. That's the day that you're really there for in terms of revenue, right? Because all the teams are playing on that day, and everyone's going to be in the park at one point or another, thirsty or hungry, and it's hot out. So they see you there on Thursday and Friday. They know that you're going to be there on Saturday and Sunday. They're setting the expectations of thinking like they don't have to go grab something to eat before, or there's going to be food available for them. So Thursday and Friday is really just like that. I'm hankering down, I'm letting people know I'm here, and you're building up to the big day.
Right. A strong presence on that Thursday and Friday sets up for good expectations on Saturday, right? And they're like, they know, okay, we don't have to bring food, or we don't have to go prepare to leave to get food. They know there's going to be something good there for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. You got any more on what went well?
Well, I would say for Friday, just showing up, you guys did a great job. Because after we closed the trailer, a Friday for the Red Sox at the spot, flew out there. We went shout out to Sneakers. It was a very good wing spot in Melrose area.
Delicious.
Yeah, great food there. And then again, yeah, I guess it goes into Saturday a little bit on what went well, just because of the team and the fact we were divided again on Saturday, right? So Saturday morning, went out there with you to help set up and just see how the day was. I think we went to the bank for some change. And then I came back to the neighborhood and got ready for the spot got ready at the spot with the trailer. And then we opened up there for a day game against the Red Sox. And then you guys went into a little chaos.
Yeah, we got in a little chaos. One thing that I wanted to point out before that too is it was also great to have a utility player for the whole weekend. Joey Pascal kind of filled in a number of roles while we were shorthanded, and it played a role in the chaos on Saturday too. So this guy was flying around like from the cart back to the storage, like where the kitchen was. It was close, but not close enough to just everyone run away and go get stuff. So he was flying, getting drinks, getting food, restocking the coolers, handing out drinks, popping in and flipping burgers when he needed to, occasionally playing cashier. The utility player aspect was really a big key in our success this weekend, being shorthanded. So that I think is something that sneakily went really well. Just having someone willing to just do whatever you needed at that moment. Because when it became chaotic, which was probably around 2 or 3 o'clock on that Saturday, we were just absolutely mobbed. I mean, the line was just never ending. Not in terms of like people waiting, but someone ordered, new people got in line, someone ordered, new people got in line, people were getting their food. I felt like I was just like in that Cat Williams of him dancing, doing the McDonald's dance, like the fry cooks and the burger flipping.
Yeah.
I was just nonstop getting burgers, cheesing on them, topping them, hot dogs. It was like a 1-to-1 ratio for hot dogs and burgers, which was insane to me too, because it's a hot dog cart. So people walk up expecting to get a hot dog, but word must have got out about the burgers, and people were ordering burgers and hot dogs left and right. And at one point we ran out of cheese, and that's when you and Ricky were starting to be on your way.
Right.
And I told you, I was like, we really need cheese slices, because we were offering up cheddar sauce at one point for an alternative. And if you want to tell a little bit about your ride over with the cheese.
Oh yeah, and leading up to that, we're like, you guys need anything, right? We're closing the trailer. We knew that a day game this is always just our general practice. A day game at Saturdays at the White Sox, we're not there until the game lets out, right? Our peak hours is like before the game and a couple innings into it. But we knew we were going to close down and we were going to fly out by you guys because we knew you needed the support. We were going to hope you needed the support, right? It's only a good thing. But we're asking you what you need, and you're like, cheese, these things. But it was really just a brick of cheese, right? And on the whole way there on 290, Ricky and I keep checking the sales, and then we're like, the number of sales and the revenue just kept going up. But we're stuck in a little traffic. It's Chicago, right? It's 290 going west, and before you're going to be in traffic until you get out of the city or like the city area. And we just keep refreshing, trying to get there as quickly as we can. We're like, oh shit, jump up by another $5, another $100, another $50, and the sales are jumping up. We're trying to get there because we knew the faster the sales are jumping up, obviously the busier you guys were, right? So we get there finally, we park, and we're walking in, and I'm holding a brick of cheese slices in my hand, and someone goes yelling, "The cheese is here! The cheese is here!" So we knew we had to hurry up and run into the spot and jump right in. It's almost like in Mighty Ducks when they're like, "You're tired. How do we switch it up?" When the teacher was taking over for Bombay. And it's like that happened, except you guys didn't get to take a break. We just jumped in, right?
Right.
We just relieved you guys in some of the positions. So like Joey got to take a break off the griddle. The grease trap was overflowing. We had to start cheesing stuff, start getting stuff going in a better position, cleaning up a little bit because you guys were so busy you couldn't do much of that. But to pile on to what you're saying, to credit to Joey, he quickly just started restocking Gatorade, and he started restocking the cooler with ice, right? Because you guys, certain things when you're so busy, you're going to take a back seat in terms of priorities. And one of those things is, well, it's important to have cold drinks, but you want to serve hot food and keep the other things in proper form, or are you're gonna ice the cooler. But once we got there, he started putting ice in the cooler, started restocking the drinks,
Right.
started doing all the ancillary stuff that you do when you do have a full team.
Right. To maximize revenue, people want cold drinks.
Right, exactly.
And I'm glad you brought up the grease trap too, because I was aware of the possibility of it overflowing, but I knew there just wasn't time to really stop and empty it. I was like, they're going to get here and then it will be time to empty it. And I was just hoping that timing worked out because I didn't want to slow up the ability to feed all these people, because that's dollars in our pockets, that's food in their belly. Everyone's happy. No one's complaining about wait times. You have to be careful with being greedy because you don't want to push it to a dangerous limit. It worked out. Obviously, if I saw it overflowing, I would have emptied it, but it was the right time.
Right.
It was the right timing.
No,
but
it was perfect timing.
that story that you tell cracks me up every time, because I could just imagine you and Ricky in the car looking at Square, but like cheering like it's like a horse race. Like like you're betting on a horse because it just keeps moving and it's updating live. And for Square to update live like that, like as you're refreshing it,
really
that's
cool.
how you really know there's good business.
Right.
Because it's not, I mean, that's sale after sale after sale for it to keep changing. You guys to be chanting for it to go up.
Yep.
And I'll never forget seeing you and Ricky come in. Like when I saw you guys walking in, I don't remember if you had a headband on, but Ricky had a headband on. And so you guys both came in like you were about to rage at a music festival, like you were going to Bonnaroo.
Yeah.
But either way, like you came in with your headband on because you knew you were getting ready to sweat. You just came from sweating.
Yep.
You were ready to party, whether it was at a music festival or invent some hot dogs, and you guys just rolled up like backups here.
Yeah. I think it was helpful though too that we came from the spot, and it was nowhere near as busy what you guys are facing. But Red Sox is always a good series where it's just the level of work or effort in the trailer is going to always be a little heavier, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that we rolled straight from that to help you guys and to jump into you guys being busy, I think was actually a helpful thing for how ready we were.
Right.
To keep going.
You were in that mode.
Right.
Like
it was actually that break with the traffic was good and bad. We would have been ready to walk down the block and jump in, right?
Right.
So
you were primed.
Yeah, we just couldn't wait to get there and just keep working.
All right, moving on. What went poorly for this? I feel like we talk about this a lot, but the order system at the cart, it's just tough. Like we have our menu in one spot. There's not a good way to place somebody to like take their order where it's obvious. Like if I walk up, I'm coming to place your order. You don't know where to go. So we put someone in front of the cart as a cashier, but the bottleneck there is we have a Hooters line that we made that goes across the tent, and that allows us to keep the tickets on a line without them blowing away in the weather. Because when you're on a hot dog cart, you're facing conditions with wind. It's not just about rain and cold weather; it's about the wind, and that's whether it's hot or cold. You're going to have wind, and I don't know how to fix that yet, but we're going to figure it out. But yeah, I mean,
yeah, I think it's going to take some review, but there's definitely ways to fix it. I don't have something else on my head. If I had to quickly spitball, but maybe we're changing the angle of the line. So if there's someone in front of the Hooters line, it actually starts in front of the cart and goes to where you're building the dogs. And again, it's off the top of my head, but I'm sure there's ways. What is helpful is to do more of these things like this that kind of pushes the limit of our equipment, right? So in this context, we're pushing the limit of the hot dog cart. Inherently, yeah, we do have a weird setup of how people can see the menu, how they order, but maybe we pivot in and put an advertisement there and instead move the menu to the other side and kind of focus all the ordering, right?
And I really do love the idea of taking an order in front of the cart, because it kind of keeps people off the cart.
Right.
Like people tend to come and want to lean on it like you're at a bar or something, and that's just not what it's for. And some of the areas are really hot, and I try to tell people, hey, like that's hot, or please just like back up a little without being rude.
Weight supporting also too.
Right.
Some people like to lean completely with their full body weight on top of that cart, right?
And the idea of taking in front of the cart, it's kind of like the Forest Park setup where people are out like taking your order at the tables and all the cooking's happening in the back. that's kind of how I foresee some of the solution base for these type of events. But you're right though. Maybe we could send the Hooters line from front to back and have it stop like right by the condiment station area and pull the orders. The only problem is like the orders go sideways, right? So
Right.
maybe,
So
but
we're game planning this live, right? So no one hold us to any specific solutions, but we won't be open at the trailer as of now. So maybe we take our printer, and with the electricity there, we bring our printer there, and we actually have them print remotely in terms of how an order is taken, and maybe it pops off right by the builder.
that's
But
one thing I was gonna say is if we're taking order on the terminal,
yeah,
I don't know if the Square capabilities, but if we had an iPad up by the condiment
that
station,
too.
the order from the terminal could pop up on the iPad, you
Yep.
know, and then we don't even have to worry about receipts flying around because it's popping up on the screen. So
Right.
that would be cool.
Yeah, and then that's one of the purposes of this podcast, right? So we're retroing our events, talking about things. Some of this honestly is a little scripted, but it's also for us to figure out solutions, and then maybe someone in the comments can throw us some solutions or what they do. You know, if we move a table in front of the cart, we're taking orders live there. Maybe people are doing some toppings themselves or napkins or just that kind of thing, getting their drinks. How do we get an order from that person efficiently to people behind the cart? You know, there's plenty of solutions, but I think that was the first time we've really been challenged with that in terms of volume, right? 'Cause
Right.
the cart's been that way since like day one, but if there isn't real volume, it isn't something that's going to come into play.
Right. We've always just been able to, well, we used to have the table set up
Right.
on the other side and we'd say, I could take your order over here, like
Right.
almost every single time. But we got away from that with the terminal because with the terminal, you can just be
You can
on
be
the go.
mobile.
You can go wherever
Yeah.
you want. It's like, you know, a waiter or waitress at a restaurant. They have the terminal and they're walking around and taking orders and
Right.
doing whatever they need to. And we try to make it be more a little bit like ninja.
And I like the table setup originally at the spot because that's more condensed, right? We don't mind the intimacy, but when you're at a vending location like this with high volume, you don't want people that close to your kitchen. If you have to view it like a kitchen where you're cooking food, building food, like you said, it's hot, you have sanitation concerns, and then it puts people way too close to it, right?
Yeah. I think going off of that, that's a great point because one of my biggest pain points about the hot dog cart is also one of my pros. Like I love that people can see the hot dog cart and it's nostalgic and they're like, oh, look at they're making it fresh right here. That's great. But also when they're leaning on the cart and looking at me make their food, a lot of assumptions start to come into play. Like they think I'm not going to make their food correctly or they think that I missed something. And that's okay. Like it's okay to make sure you want your food correct. But the problem is now I'm trying not to be rude to you, but I'm also like in the middle of a shit ton of things going on. And I'm trying to tell you like, I know, like I have your order. I'll get it right, sir. Or like,
Or it's not a fact that you're actually working on their order at that moment, right?
right.
You might be
That
throwing
happens.
extra tomatoes on something, ketchup on it for whatever reason because there's a cycle ordering. You might be throwing extra celery salt, and they're like, "That's not what I ordered." You're working on an order 2 orders ahead of theirs, right?
Right.
It's just
And
they
that's
have
the
no
thing, and
idea
it's like-
your flow, what's in your head.
Yeah,
right?
it's like this is not your order, but you're so concerned about your food, and that's fair. Like
Yeah.
nobody wants their food messed up, but that's why it's a pro and a con to
Yeah.
be like, listen, man, I'm working on food. When you get your food messed up, tell me and I'll fix it.
Right. I was
I'll
literally about to
always
say
fix
that.
it. I will always fix it.
You'll get a free order, you get a free dog. You know, we'll correct our mistakes, but allow us to either give you a perfect order or make that mistake, but don't micromanage the order, right?
Right,
Because you don't actually
absolutely.
know the process, the flow that's going on.
You're
for
just
our
seeing
system.
toppings go on food, and you're jumping to the gun, thinking
Yeah.
it's yours. You know.
Yep.
So yeah, that's all for today. Please hit the subscribe button. Let us know what you think about some of these comments regarding how to improve our setup. Because if you're out there trying to have a similar setup or trying to start your hot dog cart, you know, there's no better place than the internet to go for people who are doing the same thing.
Yeah, don't
And-
hesitate to reach out. So
Yeah, and that's the pod.
that's the pod.